Greetings. Thank you for picking this video to watch. This video is about energy drainers, energy draining people, energy vampires, people stressors, all the people that we run into that take energy away from us. My name is Daniel Ryan, and I am a Mastermind Group Facilitator and a life coach. And I have done workshops on energy draining people, and I just wanted to share this as just sort of a quick summary of the things I've learned from doing these in workshops and the difference that it's made in people's lives. I just wanted to share it. First of all, I wonder why we allow energy drainers to be in our lives, and why we don't attempt to try to manage them better. And it's sort of like having a mess in the closet or on the kitchen table, things that just sit there and we just sort of leave them there for a long time because we just get sort of used to it. And I think there's a little bit better way that we can deal with that, especially with energy drainers in our lives, to take them out of the way. And just like cleaning up that mess in the closet or in a kitchen cabinet, it makes you feel so much better when you do it. So that's sort of the idea with energy drainers. I'd like to start out by just giving you the idea that I think happy people have two things basically in common. They know what they want, and they know that they are moving toward that. So with the idea of energy draining people in your life, you know you do not want them in your life, but sometimes they're there and you have to manage that. And so between the idea of this video is giving you sort of an idea of how to identify, distinguish, and manage these people in your life. And the first kind of energy draining people I want to talk about are just the pure energy drainers. They're the ones that when you hear their name or see them or think about an encounter that you're going to have with them, that it just sends a shudder down your spine. And I want to distinguish those type from the kind of people that are your energy gainers. Energy gainers are people that, like your spouse or friends or co-workers, that give you energy, but they do some things that cause you to lose energy. They have some little quirks about them, or little habits that they have, little things they do that take energy away. So those are two different distinct type of energy drainers that I'd like to try to keep in mind and identify the distinction between the two. So, for example, I have, in my mind, an idea of a person that is an energy drainer that just, whenever I hear their name or think of an encounter with them, it just takes energy away. As compared to people that I have, my wife, for example, that I love her dearly, and there's little things that she does that drain a little bit of energy from me. So the first thing I would ask you to do is just make sort of a list, and at the top of a piece of paper just write down pure energy draining people, and on the other side of the paper write down on the top of it the people that are energy gainers but just do some things that drain some energy from you. And then I would like you to just go down that list and think about people in your life that drain energy from you. It could be work, your bosses, your colleagues, subordinates, family, parents, siblings, cousins, friends, in-laws, your spouses, in-laws, friends, co-workers, friends of friends, neighbors, team members, anyone you can think of. And I just sort of give some ideas there just to sort of flesh that out. After you have this list, so if you want to, you can stop this and build that list. That's what we do in the workshop, is take some time right now to build that list and come up with as many people as you can on each list. Then, after you have that list together, then prioritize each list. So go write down the list and prioritize the people that you're in both lists that are energy drainers for you. And so you get the number one all the way through however many that you have on that list. After you do that, I would just ask that you take your list, and you could take whichever list that you want one at a time, and we'll just go through with one example right now. Put down my paperwork here. So this first step sort of creates awareness of the people that are your energy drainers. And I would like you to take that number one person on your list, and then after this time, you'll proceed right down the list. But imagine a time when that number one person was really stressing you out. I would like you to identify what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what your body's doing, and what your behavior is. So, once again, it's what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what your body's doing, and what your behavior is. And for example, for me, when I think about my number one person, that's my energy drainer, I'm thinking, be careful. This is what's going through my head. Be careful. I've had lots of problems with this person in the past, and I feel like this person is sort of a loose cannon ready to go off. And so that's what's going through my mind. My feelings, the emotions I'm feeling is nervousness, I'm scared, I'm irritable. My body is tight, I have shallow breathing in my body. And my behavior is forced, intentional, and fake. I'm not my natural self at all. So now, I'd like you to do the same thing with the top number one person on your list, is to identify what is you're thinking, what emotions, what feelings you're going through, what's going on in your body, and what your behavior is. So if you want to stop this and just take a second to do that, write that out, that would be great. So the next thing is just to sort of ask, as you're going through that, what was your takeaway? What did the process feel like? I would like you to just sort of think about that. And when you go through this, everyone's a little bit different, but it sort of adds something that's different for each person about what they get through going through this process. So did anything come up for you as you did this process? Because that's sort of an indicator of what's going on with you internally, subconsciously. Okay, so now that you have awareness of created the awareness of what it feels like, what you're thinking, what's going on with your body, and your behavior of when you're dealing with this energy vampire or this energy draining person. Now I'd like you to go through and do the same thing. What's the ideal way you want it to be with this exact same person that we're using for this example? What's the ideal way that you want to feel? So I'd like you to go through and the same process of going through and identifying what you ideally want your thinking to be in a situation, what you want your emotions or your feeling to be, what you want your body to feel like, and what you want your behavior to be. And for my example, my thinking, my ideal thinking with this person is I can be me and not worry about offending or setting this other person off. That's what I'm thinking. And my feeling, the feelings that I want to feel ideally, the emotions are calmness, peace, and even caring. My body, I want it to be relaxed, loose. I want it to be breathing deep, not shallow. In my behavior, I want it to be natural, unaffected, and focused. That would be the ideal. So I would ask you now just to turn this off for a minute and come up with your ideal with this person that we're using in this example, your energy drainer. What would be the ideal way that you would be feeling? What would you be thinking? What would your feeling and emotions be? What would be your body? How would your body be feeling? And what would your behavior be? Okay, so the same kind of idea here. I would just ask you to look within and sort of ask, what was your takeaway from doing this? What did the process feel like? And sort of reflect on that for a minute. Okay, and the next step is closing the gap. So we've established, number one, what the current situation is. We've created an awareness of what the current situation is with this energy draining person. And then the next step is to identify, the next step we did was to identify what the ideal would be. And the next thing we want to do is close that gap. What can we do to close that gap to go from where it is now, that's not working, to where we want it to be? And to do this, we have to do a couple of things. We have choices to move toward the ideal. We have three choices. We can change us, we can change them, or we can change the environment. And let me explain what that means. The first one is changing you. So here's some things that you can do in regards to changing yourself. You can begin to understand your why. Why, digging down deep, asking yourself, why is this person bothering you? What is it about this person that's bothering you, and digging down, what's that kicking up for yourself? Sort of unpacking that. The second choice is, or second option is, accepting you and the person as it is. So you just it's like agreeing to disagree. You just identify that this person and you are not going to get along, and that's okay. Or they're going to be an energy drainer for you, and that's okay, and just accept that. So that's the second option. The third option is reframing the situation. Sometimes if you look at it from a different perspective and you frame it in a sense of, what am I supposed to be learning from this? Or sometimes even a perspective of, if you were creating a report, if you're doing a news article on this and you were the reporter and you had to list this situation and you played that role, what would that be? That would change your role. Okay, so the idea of this is to sort of change your perspective. Okay, so there's three options about changing you. You can begin to try to understand why you're feeling this way and unpack that. You can accept it as it is, or you can reframe it, or a combination of the three. For example, when I look back at the person that's my energy drainer, I work on understanding why I feel threatened by that person, and I realize it's because I feel insecure about myself when I'm with this person, and it really tells about myself, about my insecurity. So that helps me realize it's me that's tripping or triggering something in me, my own insecurities, and so it pushes it back to me that I can handle that, and it really helps unpack that. The second option is I can choose to agree to disagree with the tension between this person and me, and accept it as it is and let it go. And the third option, I can reframe it to something I learned as something I'm going to learn from, and to be able to handle people like this person, anyone else that's like this person that I run into for the rest of my lives. And so I look at it as a learning situation. Or, as I mentioned, I can use a combination of any one of those, or all three of them, whatever works out best. And I would ask you at this time just to sort of think about what that means to you of going through that process, if that kicked anything up for you going through that process. The next step, the next option, the first option was to change them. That's what we just finished talking about. Change you or change the environment. And the next option is to change them. And I know it's one of those things, well, you can't really change people, but yeah, you can sometimes. The idea option for changing them is to communicate to them, and the second option is to teach them or train them how to teach them how to treat you. So the first option is the idea of communicating, whether it's someone that is a loved one or someone that you don't know that well. A lot of times people don't even realize what it is that they're doing something that's bothering you, and just communicating to them in a good way, in a polite way, just gets it out there, and that's something that you can work on. The second option is to teach them how to treat you, and that works out really good with people, to reinforce the positive times that they don't do the things that bother you, and then to sort of extinguish the behavior of the times that they do something, like just walking away or ignoring them when they do the behavior that you don't like, or training them in the moment just to say, hey, I don't really like that when you do that, and could you please stop that? And that's just slowly teaching the other person, how you want to be treated. Okay. And so the idea is, and you can use a combination of the two of those. So one of the things I do with the first example of communicating to that person is I said, and I do this, my wife and I do this, is we set a specific time every week that we have a marriage meeting. And if you set a specific time, then you know it's going to happen, that you can talk about things that are uncomfortable, because most people that I deal with and myself are people pleasers, and so there's never a good time to communicate to someone else that, hey, what you're doing is bothering me. So if you have a set time every week for good things and bad things, then there's place for that, and it's a lot easier to do. So I communicate that when we do have that meeting, and then as far as training other people, I try to really reward people when they do the behavior that I really want. I just say, hey, I appreciated that you were aware that that bothered me, and that you stopped doing that this time, and I really appreciate it, and I want to thank you for that. So that's sort of the idea of training people how to treat you. So the idea is that you can change people, the situations, the energy drainers, by changing you, changing them, or changing the environment. And the last one is changing the environment. And the idea with changing the environment is some things that you can do in the environment is the limited time you have with this person, control where you meet, control the medium, whether it's live, whether it's text, whether it's on the phone, control the social situation. So with my energy draining person that I used in my example, I control the environment very strongly with a combination of tools. I limit our time together, I control where we meet, and the social situations. I never meet that person on their turf. It's got to be more neutral ground. And so coming up with the idea of the ideal kind of environment. So with each one of these different ideas about what you can do to move from the present way it is with these energy drainers to the ideal way, and to come up with a plan and looking at these options of what you can do. And once again, I'd ask you to sort of reflect on what the process felt like as you're going through this. So going through this process, I hope that I've sort of increased your awareness of energy draining people in your life, sort of identify the way that you would like it to be, and then giving you some strategies to make a plan, an action plan, about how to make it the way that you want it to be made, how you want that relationship to be. And just to remember in closing with the idea that these little things, these little energy drainers, and can be big too, but little by little they take away so much of ourselves, and somehow we've grown accustomed to just leaving them in our lives. So I think it's worth the time for you and for them to work on that, and little by little, it's a process. It never happens just overnight. It's like a lot of different things. There's no fancy techniques or get it done right now kind of deal. It just takes time to do. So once again, thank you for taking your time to watch this video. My name is Daniel Ryan, and my email address is dryan62@yahoo.com. That is dryan62@yahoo.com. If you have any comments or questions, I have my life coaching that I do, and I also have several groups, all mine live and synchronous and asynchronous groups that I do. If you'd be interested in that, please let me know. Thank you and have a great day.